Hello and welcome. I'm Sage.
And I'm Karis, and this is
the Cousin Coven podcast. We're cousins, witches, and feminists. And we have some thoughts.
In fact, we have a lot of thoughts, and we want to share them with you. On today's episode, we're going to talk about a pastor threatening to dox witches in his church, Queer Quartz, Kitchen Table Tarot by Melissa Cynova, and the public perception of witches.
Please remember that everything we say is our own personal opinion, and that might not resonate with you, but that's okay. We're all on our own journeys.
So let's get right into it. Today we are going to be reacting to Greg Locke, who is a Baptist pastor, and he is threatening to dox witches in his church.
This is actually really wild.
Got first and last names of 6 witches that are in our church. And you know what's strange? 3 of you are in this room right now. Three of you in the room right now. You better look in my eyeballs. We ain't afraid of you, you stinking witch. You devil-worshiping Satanist witch. We cast you out in the name of Jesus Christ. We break your spells. We break your curse. We got your first name. We got your last name. We even got an address for one of you. You so much as cough wrong, and I'll expose you in front of everybody in this tent, you stinking witch. You were sent to this church to destroy us. You were sent to this church to lure us in. You were sent to this church to cast spell. Listen, some of you been sick because you befriended that witch. 2 of you in my wife's ladies' Bible study, and you know who you are, and we going to ask you to get out, or I'll expose you in front of everybody. We got all 6 of their names. All 6 of them. 2 of them had already been confirmed before that thing ever even said it. First and last name. This chick is new to our church and don't know none of you. So you got a choice. You can leave with your spells all by yourself. Or I'll show up next Sunday with a stage full of brooms. And I'll give you one and I'll fly your tail up out of this place in the name of Jesus. But we ain't playing your spell casting, witchcraft, nonsense, sage burning games. Everybody okay? The witches are like, nope. And your little dog, too. You're out, witch.
So, as a little bit of setup to this video, this guy's a Baptist pastor, and this video went viral last year. He is in Tennessee, and he is the same guy who's he's done book burnings, and he has threatened baristas with physical violence for getting his order wrong.
Baristas?
Yeah, he went on Instagram or something and did a live and was threatening to he was talking about how he had threatened to beat the shit out of this barista because he got his order wrong. So, I mean,
wow.
He's also an anti-vaxxer and supports Donald Trump, so just generally
enough said.
Kind of a wackadoo, but definitely scary, I think. So, Sage, why don't you share your thoughts on this whole thing?
Well, I think I'm going to take it a little bit personally that he said, you sage burning witch. There's so many problems that I have with this. However, I can say I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. I don't want to write off or talk bad about a religion or Christianity or any denomination, but you and I both know, being raised in church and having Southern roots, that there is a lot of this is the right way, this is the only way, and anything other is wrong, it's bad, which would not even be said or tolerated. I can't even see how his whole thing just doesn't make sense. If they were sincerely actual witches, I don't think they would feel comfortable even being there. Why?
So what he's saying is basically he's told his church that he was casting out a demon from another woman, a newer woman in the congregation, and the demon told him the name of 6 witches that were in his congregation.
This is nothing but a witch hunt then.
Exactly. Exactly.
Wow. A demon told you the names of witches in your congregation.
Yeah.
That almost sounds like a mental illness.
It sounds like the witch trials. Like, is he protecting himself because these women know something about him? Is this woman whose demon gave up these people's names? Is she pissed at them for some reason? Like, that's how all of the witch trials happened.
Right.
Ugh, it's scary to see stuff like that happening so many hundreds of years later. I mean, like you said, you and I we grew up in a Baptist church, very evangelical. And if you don't know what evangelical is, that basically means to evangelize, to go out and save others. That's the calling. That's the
You're
whole
spreading the word and trying to recruit saved souls.
save the souls from the fiery pits of hell. So we know, and we have a lot of history with this kind of garbage being spread from a stage. And we can definitely tackle religious trauma and biblical indoctrination another time, but we know what it's like to hear this kind of stuff, but it's really dangerous and it's really gross. How insecure this little man is to call out women from a stage. No, he's not going to go and like speak to them privately. He's going to scream at them from a stage in front of how many
Well,
people?
because that's more theatrical.
It's so disgusting. And like, I know that he doesn't really understand what witchcraft is or who witches are or anything like that. And I mean, do I think that the women that are in his church are practicing witches? Really, really doubt that. Just because,
They wouldn't feel welcome there. I would not feel welcome in a place like this.
right?
Even if I was Baptist, I wouldn't feel welcome in a place like this. This guy is just off his rocker.
Mm-hmm.
And I also want to just put a little snippet in here. Like, so we did grow up in a Baptist church. However, it wasn't like this kind of level.
My parents are.
It was more like in my perception, things are bad. Catholics are wrong. There was a lot of crap talk about Catholics. And but I don't recall witnessing a pastor like going off like this guy.
I mean, I definitely have seen it. I have seen it several times. My parents' pastor, he's a different case.
Yeah, he's a different case. Like I guess growing up I didn't see it. Yeah, without mentioning you know any specifics, but yeah, your parents' pastor is maybe along these lines a little bit.
He definitely is.
Maybe our aunt's pastor down south is a little bit like this, if
Mhm.
you recall him.
Mhm.
But still, I would even say not to this extent. I mean, I don't know.
I've heard my parents' pastor do and say quite a lot of things that toe this same line.
Yeah.
He is also very pro Trump. It is not a welcoming environment, especially for anybody.
I know this is not like a political podcast. However, I do want to say, once you say, and I'm sorry, this is going to offend people. My apologies. Sorry, not sorry. Once you say that you are full on, we'll say evangelist, and you're pro Trump, that's all you need to say. Like, there's nothing else we need to talk about because I already know it's going to be like talking to a wall and you're already closed off, so close minded
Mhm.
that there's nothing that I can say to you because
Mhm.
you're so set in whatever ways this is.
100% for me as well.
In general, I don't like to generalize, I guess. I don't like to group people together and be like, this is you, all of you think this, all of you do this. I don't like that, but I can't find any other way to go around people that identify in those two groups. I'm sorry, I can't. It's like if you cannot open your mind to accept other people and think that maybe someone else's way has merit or people can have other opinions besides yours. It's like fundamentally we are so different. What do we have to talk about?
There isn't common ground. Exactly. It's incredibly difficult. I mean, it's really difficult to be around my family a lot of times because of this. I don't, it's just such a fundamentally different way of thinking and believing and the things that you want. I know, again, we're not a political podcast, but it's always been this whole, you have to be able to find common ground so that you can work with, the person on the other side of the aisle. I won't say Democrat, Republican, but I will say left and right leaning. But, people like Donald Trump supporting evangelicals who are so set in how they believe and what they think of others and how much better they think they are than the other people around them. You cannot find common ground with someone like that. There just isn't. There isn't, because frankly, if you're black, they hate you. If you're a woman, they probably hate you. If you're not a Christian, they hate you. There's just so many. If you're not straight, they hate you. There's so many things that they hate you for existing about that it's just
Yeah.
pointless. It's so pointless to even try and find that common ground.
Yeah.
Which is crazy because the whole basis of the Christian faith is supposed to be loving and accepting and
Loving your neighbor.
exactly.
Yeah.
That is what it's supposed to be built on. However, it's so full of judgment and hate and division that it's hard to even just be around people like that.
Yeah, and again, I just want to put a little disclaimer, like, we're not saying all Christians, we're not saying all Baptists. I am more so leaning toward practice what you preach, I guess. Like, you're not acting how you claim you should be, and just Trump, I just can't get around Trump, but um I'm not trying to say that anyone who's Baptist is bad or anybody who's Christian is bad. That is certainly not the case. There are some good people who do try to follow their religion and, try to uphold the values that they believe that Jesus had or professed or whatever. Sure. But is everyone that same way? No.
I just think that if I come to a person and I say I am gay or bisexual or whatever, and they have a judgment towards me, or I say I'm a witch and they have judgment towards me, I think we're going to struggle to find any sort of common ground, any sort of like good friendship or anything like that, any relationship there. Because if you don't think that my life choices and me as a person, like if you don't want that to exist, then I think probably we're not gonna get along.
Yeah, like you disagree with me at a basic level. How will we go past that?
Mm-hmm.
Or you're not in my family anymore.
I do, like you said, I know Christians who are definitely not like this. They do not fall under this category. But if I tell you that I'm a witch and your immediate reaction is you're going to burn in hell or get the fuck out of my church, that's an impasse. That is an impasse that you cannot ever get across, I think.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, for sure. Today's book recommendation is Kitchen Table Tarot by Melissa Cynova. So you probably know Melissa from somewhere on the internet. She is an awesome person. When it comes to writing books, she seriously makes it feel like she wrote them as a letter to you. Here's a blurb from Amazon Summary. Melissa shares straightforward guidance on decks, spreads, card meanings, and symbols, filled with real life examples and personal explanations of what it's like to read the cards. This book tells it like it is and provides the information you need to read with confidence. So, why should you read it? This book is super approachable. It makes tarot very easy to understand. And honestly, it's like she's sitting at a kitchen table with you. She's really authentic and warm, and you can tell that she really wants to help you learn how tarot works so that you can use it for yourself. So it's really like having just a one-on-one chat with her. And if you learn better by listening, I highly recommend the audiobook, which she reads herself. So it felt like I listened to it. So it felt like I was just sitting there having a chat with her. And when I first read this book, I was just getting into tarot and I thought it was absolutely an invaluable resource. So I definitely recommend giving it a chance.
So let's talk a little bit today about the public perception of witches and witchcraft. How do you think that witches are portrayed?
So I think it really depends on who you ask. I think there are people that actually just don't believe in witches at all.
Like, surprise, bitch, I exist.
Right. When I was doing some research for that clip that we played in the opening segment, I came across a video of a pretty popular comedian talking about how, like, he thought that guy was crazy because witches aren't real. And so I thought that was super interesting. Like, that's a take. Obviously, there are people who believe that witches worship Satan. There are some people who think that witches are like hippies who make out with trees.
Oh, I mean, maybe a little.
There are also some people who think that the word witch could be kind of exchanged synonymously for feminist. I still think that there is quite a religious current, even today, with the decline of religion. I feel like there's still this current of religious people who want to stamp out witches like they've done for thousands of years. Obviously, it didn't work because we're still here. But, I do think because there is this growing number of people who have an interest in manifestation and the law of attraction, I think that witchcraft and spirituality and just sort of like new age thought processes are more accepted by younger people today than probably they've been in history. I would say maybe like recent history since the rise of like Christianity.
Okay. I do have hope that our generation, where we were 80s babies and 90s kids,
Mm-hmm.
so maybe our generation and those after are going to be more accepting and more tolerant and not so judgmental or quick to judge. I have hope, but the current public perception, I think, is kind of between like TV shows and things showing outlandish things, which we'll get into. The opposite side, I feel, of that is like just like a cartoonish type figure, like a green face, pointy hat,
Warts.
warts, like like a cartoony kind of character. I'm sure if we, I mean, I haven't, but I'm sure if we did like a Google search or something like witch, that's what's gonna come up. Is gonna be the pointy hat, green face, Wicked Witch of the West, or whatever.
100%. That's exactly
Yep.
what came up. I just Googled it.
So, I mean, that right there tells you what the perception is. What are some stereotypes about witches that could maybe be, dangerous or something funny or hurtful, offensive? Like what are some stereotypes you can think of?
So definitely obviously the most offensive, insulting one is that we're all ugly. We have warts and green skin, and
I don't like the eating children part.
oh yeah, that's pretty bad. Making sacrifices like humans or animals. No.
No.
Absolutely
No,
not.
I don't even want to. I don't even eat meat, so I don't, I'm not sacrificing anything.
I think also like pointy hats and broomsticks, like that we ride broomsticks. Obviously, a lot of us have brooms, besoms, but we don't ride them.
Right. I mean, so that's definitely the stereotype, but sometimes it's a little bit fun to kind of go with the stereotype, you know?
Yeah, like the pointy shoes. Yeah, like look at our logo.
Like, yeah, 100%.
But I will also say that it's kind of funny how witches have this like fantastical element to them as well. Like we can fly and wiggle our nose and, make things appear.
I mean, that would be cool.
I mean, worship the devil. That was one. I don't know if I mentioned that, but that's such a just kind of ridiculous stereotype since most of us don't even believe in the devil.
That is actually, yeah, that's actually something that's probably one of the most offensive things to me.
I don't know if I find it offensive, but I find it very scary in the sense that the people who are saying it that we worship the devil are saying it because they're trying to attack us.
And make other people want to attack us.
Exactly. You don't hear anybody saying, like, oh, you watch football every Sunday? Like, that's the devil. I mean, you might hear some people say it, but.
You definitely might.
But
Depends on where you are.
right, but I mean, you don't hear like it things being equated to devil worship unless they're trying to attack that thing. And so for me, while it is absolutely ridiculous and we don't believe in the devil, I know I don't, because that's a Christian concept.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Like, anybody who does, I would just think that they're Christian
Right.
in some form.
Exactly. And so, I mean, that part's kind of silly to me because obviously I don't worship the devil if I don't believe in him, but at the same time, the fact that they're trying to equate our practices with worshiping the devil is like they're doing it because they want us to be condemned, attacked, killed sometimes.
I'm thankful that for the most part, it's not so much like that, I guess, now.
Yeah, it's
Like,
better for sure.
I feel like, yeah, there's definitely a lot more acceptance in recent years, probably in the last like 20 years or so. What do you think?
I think so because I mean, obviously it's a little different for me personally just because I again have some really very conservative parents, but I will say that like growing up there was what like that one magic shop that like the
Yeah,
one metaphysical store that was by us. I don't even
yeah.
remember the name of it now, but there was the one that was by us. And now, like I've got like 20 within a stone's throw
Yeah,
of
there's
me.
so many more by you.
I think that's fantastic, but it definitely also, speaks to the fact that there just are so many more available, which means that they're making money and more people are either accepting of the fact that there's metaphysical stores or purchasing from them. I think the rise of tarot and like the popularity of it has really helped with that too. It has to be more popular than it was in like the 90s or whatever. I think with the rise of tarot and like that becoming a thing that wasn't just done at fairs or whatever, like that being more common practice or it's not like like a scam like Miss Cleo call me now.
Yeah, like you could do this yourself if you want.
Yeah, and that it's like kind of turned into self-development or inner work. And I feel like that alignment and like the use that it has there has kind of helped normalize tarot and metaphysical stores and even witchcraft to an extent. Since we're talking about movies and witches in movies, let's talk about how we think that witches are portrayed and if it's harmful or helpful.
Ooh, like a game.
Yeah. So, the first one we have is the craft. Yeah. Beneficial, not beneficial, or no influence. Let's do it that way.
Okay. I guess I would say mostly not beneficial because most of it is like outlandish.
So I would argue that point because
Well, bring it.
yeah. So I would argue that point because I think that a lot of kind of the witchy awakening that happened in the 90s where there are a lot of people who are
You think it's because of that movie?
I think it helps. I don't know any witches that are around our age that do not love the craft.
I don't love it. I
What?
mean, I'll watch it, but I do not love it. So you know one.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well I know one. That is crazy.
Most of all because the one girl, Nancy, Nancy
Yeah. The
is
crazy one.
just too over the top. And yeah.
Okay, all right. Next up, Bewitched. Now we're talking the original, the classic.
So, okay, pros and cons and then side comment. So, I think I think it had a beneficial impact in that you could see a witch as a normal person, a normal like wife, mother. She was the person next door. Some of the things that were done were they actual? Like no, none of it. There was no no, no like ritual, no nothing. There was nothing connected otherwise besides in name. Um and also that her husband was like, "Don't do this. Keep this at home. Not don't share it around." Like that irritates all the facets of me. Um so uh that's the side comment irritation there that she has to keep it inside and do what your husband says.
Okay, so in my opinion, honestly, I really just agree with everything that you said. It's very frustrating that but it's from, it's all about the time period that
But
it
the
was made.
60s, 50s, long
Yeah,
time ago.
something like that. Long time ago. So very irritating in that way. But it's cool that you can see that she's just a normal person and she's like quote unquote good. But yeah, I mean, I don't think it had too much of an actual impact on the witchy community, but I loved it when I was a kid.
Yeah. Yeah, only in name. Nothing else really was witchy.
Next up, we have Hocus Pocus.
Whew. Okay. So I love this movie. Now I feel the
Same.
same way that you were saying about The Craft. Like I don't know anyone that doesn't love Hocus Pocus, and if you do, you can't sit with us.
100%. Absolutely the case.
Is
You
anything
can't sit with
portrayed
us.
necessarily accurate?
No.
No. Um very very minimal. Um and they eat children and I smell children. Like there's so much in it, but it's also it's like one of those like all the stereotypes wrapped into one, but like you have to laugh at it. You have to have fun with it. Like if you're taking yourself that seriously, it's already a wrap.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
But love, 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 love.
I mean, I also love Hocus Pocus, and I mean, I fall hard into it during spooky season. I definitely have a shirt that says "Another glorious morning makes me sick."
Come on, come
Um,
on, come on, come on.
like I think it's one of the greats.
Oh,
But
but I didn't see the new one yet.
oh, it's good.
Okay,
It's
I'm gonna
very
watch it
good.
this year.
You totally should. It is so good. Um, but yeah, not any bit realistic at all. Okay, what about Charmed? We can talk old charmed, new charmed, whatever you want.
Well, I have no knowledge of New Charmed, so I can't input on the new. But the old, pros and cons. So a lot of things again are like outlandish. They do have some elements that are more realistic and they do seem relatively normal, maybe to their neighbors. I don't know. I mean, a lot of stuff goes down, but wha- what do you think?
I mean, I think that we were introduced to some actual like witchy concepts. We had the Book of Shadows and just little things that were kind of sprinkled throughout that they maybe did a little bit of research.
Yeah, like they used a pendulum, right, for part of
Mhm.
it. They
Yeah.
did a circle, right? Didn't they do
Mhm.
circles?
Yep. I think so.
In my mind, I guess they did.
The new one is very good. But definitely along the same lines. Not realistic, but good, entertaining. What about Harry Potter, which I feel like you can't speak to
Oh
at all?
god. You know, I don't know too much of Harry Potter other than what you forced upon me. I think maybe overall, maybe he did bad because I just remember like religious parents or groups or something being like,
Yeah.
"Oh no, not the witches!
Yeah.
They're turning them into witches."
Yeah, the guy who we were looking at his video, the one who was about to give out the names of the witches in his church, he's had Harry Potter book burning parties.
Ridiculous.
Okay, I book burnings are so stupid. So I will say, in my opinion, Harry Potter had, I hate to say this, a negative impact on the witchy community. I say that knowing I love Harry Potter so much. I have several Harry Potter tattoos. I have tons of collectibles. So I love Harry Potter. I mean, J.K. Rowling is a turf, so we will not talk about her. But I absolutely
She's a what?
she's a turf. So like she's very anti-trans. It's a whole thing. She has been canceled. Thank goodness.
I haven't heard that term, I don't think.
It means a person whose views on gender identity are considered hostile to transgender people who oppose social and political policies designed to be inclusive of transgender people. It's an acronym for trans exclusionary radical feminist.
Okay.
But anyway, she's pretty terrible. But overall, I don't think the actual series was any more about witchcraft than Lord of the Rings, right? Like, it wasn't realistic. It wasn't even, while it had some crossover with this reality, it was set in like the magical world. And so really is about friendship and love and bravery and doing what's right no matter what it costs you. But obviously, religious zealots kind of took witch and wizard and ran with it and went a little crazy. So I think that all the people who were potentially finding the craft around 97, if they had religious parents,
Oh wow, is that when that came out?
if they had religious parents, I think that was negative for them because there was this horrible connotation.
It has not been out that long.
Yes, hasn't. It came out in 1997, the first one.
Wow.
And the movie came out in 2001, I think, the first one.
Wow.
But it's unfortunate for the people who were maybe getting into the craft and had to deal with this horrible perception that came up about witches and wizards. But ultimately, I feel like unless they were on the radar with it anyway, they probably would have had a negative opinion coming from those religious people anyway.
Well, I mean, I think too, like a rational person would be able to know that that's not actuality.
Correct.
Like a rational person.
Correct.
So I don't know what to say. I would say maybe no impact to bad impact, but like from from other people
Right.
related to this.
From zealots.
I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
But overall, it didn't really have too much to do with real witchcraft anyway. So, Sage, what are your thoughts about the rise and popularity of witchcraft today and like what that's done to public perception?
So I think, like as you mentioned, with there being more like stores and places and more visibility, I think the more that people are able to express things that they feel and things that they believe, and it's showed in a positive light, will make things better. Almost like, I don't wanna say TikTok witches, but, like, maybe, like it seems like a lot of younger females are really into, like, a witchy aesthetic, which may or may not correlate with spirituality. Even if that's not the case, I think that it's still actually positive because it's putting more of a label out there, like, more of a term, like, people could get comfortable maybe with the word witch,
Yeah.
or like, "Oh, okay, well, they just wanna, like, meditate and play with rocks or whatever." Like, it's fine.
Sure. So in like I have a few thoughts on this. So I will say that, studies have shown that religion, specifically Christianity, is kind of on the decline around the world. More people are spiritual than religious. And I think that, the same focus on manifesting and that kind of thing. I think witchcraft is filling some of that space. And I think that's pretty great. I am the kind of person who loves when things that I love or enjoy are like when they become popular. I am not one of those people who has to say, I loved it before it was cool. Because, I mean, frankly,
I will say that with Golden Girls, though.
I love when the things that I love are popular because that means that I have such easier access to them. 20 years ago, you could have gone into Target and picked up a book on witchcraft. It's unheard of, but I bought several books there. You couldn't have picked up a tarot deck at TJ Maxx, but I've definitely done that more than once.
True story.
I mean, the fact that these things that I love are getting recognition and are popular and easy to access for me means they're easy to access for other people who maybe couldn't have gotten them 20 years ago. So I'm very happy about that. I also feel like let's talk about the witches on social media. So I think there's definitely some downside to having witches or even people who call themselves witches and aren't necessarily into the practice, but they're into the aesthetic. Maybe goth. I think that having this aesthetic makes it more accessible to people who are searching for something, searching for a practice, trying to figure out what it is they believe and what they want to do in their life. And so I think it's great that that availability is out there, but it's kind of a double-edged sword because at the same time, you see someone who has, this crazy cool altar set up and you're like, "Oh, am I a witch because my altar is like a candle and a book." Like it sets up that comparison, and like we kind of touched on
I
last
mean,
week.
all of social
Yes.
media.
Yes. So while it is cool, like we touched on last week, it definitely can give you that whole sense of like, am I enough? Am I good enough? That kind of problem. But I'll say, like, there are people on social media. Kellyanne Maddox, who wrote the book that we talked about in week one, is one of the most genuine, lovely people I feel like on the planet. Her YouTube channel is like, it goes back for like 10 plus years, and she has discussions on everything to do with the craft. And like that kind of knowledge and experience coming from someone who's lovely and not judgmental or anything like that, that is just something that is we're so lucky to have nowadays. Like, especially if you're just getting into the craft and maybe you don't love to read, or maybe you can't get to books. Like, some people are in the broom closet for good reason. And if you can't get to that kind of stuff, finding videos online where people are really explaining things to you and helping you understand stuff, That's like so amazing to be able to have
Yeah,
now.
true story.
So yeah,
Yeah.
kind of a tangent, but I definitely think that it's really important to talk about.
Awesome.
So how do you think the public perception of witches impacts you and other practitioners?
Ooh. Um I mean, I want to say it doesn't impact me, but it does.
Yes, it
Um
does.
yeah, I but honestly, I mean, I try not to pay attention to other people for a lot of things. But yeah, it impacts me in, I guess, one way is that I feel like I can't, it's not something I can express freely anywhere I am because, for example, where I work, there's a lot of people who are Christian, and I haven't taken a poll or anything, but it seems like I'm maybe the only one that's not. So when we have luncheons and things, one of the older ladies will, say like a prayer blessing over the food and stuff. So I mean, I would never say anything like don't do that. Of course, I never would even express that or think to do that. So just when they do that, I just say, something to my own self that's not about Jesus. you know, frankly, not about Jesus, but I just say my own little, like thankful prayer to myself and kind of keep it going. I do have jewelry that I wear to work, but I'm not like overly advertising, I guess. it just, it kind of sucks because, there's certain places where maybe people would look at you funny, or maybe they would view you differently than they have gotten to know you if they find out something like this, just because there is, what we talked about. Like, there is that perception of, oh, you're a devil worshiper, or like, you're going to hell, you eat children. I don't know that anybody thinks that witches eat children for real, but they do legit really feel like you worship the devil and you're going to hell. Like, that is 100% true that they think that. I don't wanna set myself up in a situation where I have to have undue stress on me
Mhm.
that's not needed, because the only thing that's gonna come out of this is that their perception of me could change, or maybe they won't trust me, or, there's no benefit to just letting it all out.
So I have two kind of answers to this question. First of all, and I kind of want to preface this and say this for anybody who's listening, if you feel like coming out of the broom closet would make you unsafe or cause, like you said, undue stress in your life, like if you're, you live at home with your parents and your parents are very religious, or, with anyone, a husband, a spouse, whatever, or if you live with someone or you are around someone, or maybe you would potentially get fired because of it, it is totally okay to stay in the closet. Like, there is absolutely nothing wrong with not talking about your beliefs or your journey with anyone. That is absolutely fine.
Yeah, like self-preservation and looking out for your own mental health.
I definitely have, there are pockets of people in my life that I am in the broom closet with. There are pockets of people in my life that I'm in a ton of closets with, actually. But I do that for my safety, as well as just a protection of what type of relationship I have with that person. So don't ever let anyone make you feel like you have to, rent a billboard and write that you're a witch. Like, you just don't. You don't. But I will also say that, even, and I know we didn't really talk about this stereotype, but like, there is a stereotype that people who look at their, that follow their astrology or read tarot, or are witches or into crystals or what have you, that they're just like crazy pants because of that sort of stereotype and like ridiculous belief that people have. I think it makes it harder for just coming out of the closet and out of the broom closet in any situation, because I feel like when I say that I'm into astrology, that I cast spells, that I, read tarot cards, if I say that to people, I feel like maybe they won't take me as seriously. Like they think I'm not logical or reasonable.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, I'm in the legal field for my day job. So my life is kind of anchored in facts and tangible knowledge. And like, I believe the things that I do. I'm a witch because that feels right to me. And those things, tarot cards have proven themselves. They've shown up in my life, you know? I can look at my chart and I mean, it dead ass describes me as a person. And like, for those things to be, important to me, when other people see that, they feel like maybe I'm not logical, maybe I'm kind of crazy. Like, so it's hard for me to just say, hey, I'm a witch without this ridiculous grand explanation and that's backed up with all these facts and reasons, and I really have to lay out my case of why I'm a witch or why I read tarot or why I think astrology is right in order to just be who I am or express who I am. I feel like that all has to come with it, and sometimes it is just not fucking worth it. It is not worth the hassle of like having to prove that I'm a sane and logical person just because I'm a witch. Like, doesn't mean I'm crazy pants.
Yeah, but why nobody else has to prove that they're sane or logical? Like, that's wild.
That's also what I think. Like, it's pretty irksome that people can be like, "Oh, I'm a Christian. I believe this guy just was crucified and was dead for 3 days and then woke up and then he saved us all." Like,
Who was also his own father.
exactly. No proof that you're not crazy. Like, oh, you believe that? That's totally acceptable. But like, oh, you're a witch and you manifest by the moon? What a psycho. You know? So it's like it's kind of irritating, but it is. It's definitely it feels like it's something that keeps me, because of that perception, it keeps me from being open and honest, and even in situations where it wouldn't be like an issue for me to come out of the broom closets.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel what you're saying. So I get it. It's so much better when you don't even have to explain.
Yeah.
Like there are times when I've had someone, like see my necklace or something and they'll be like, "Oh, I like your necklace."
Yeah. Me too.
And I'm like, "Oh, thanks."
Me too. I have had that happen several times where like I'll just be out and like say I'm at the store and the cashier is just like, "Oh, I love your necklace." And like I know, you know? And it's nice.
Like, "Oh,
You don't
okay."
have to be like, "I'm
Yeah.
not crazy."
Or like, "Are you witchy too?"
Are
Like
you?
it seems
Yeah,
like
no,
maybe
it's
that's like the signal, like,
I think
"Oh,
so.
I like your necklace." Like, "Oh, wink, wink."
Right? I mean, I think that if those of us who can come out do and like show up and we prove to the people out there that like we're just normal people, we're just Samanthas, we're just people. And if we just show up, we go and live our lives and we do what we do, then I think it'll let people, one, know that witches aren't crazy and that they're not worshiping Satan or any of the other really kind of crazy ideas that people have about witches. And two, I think it'll help people who are seeking something different. They're looking to see what witchcraft could do for them. They're interested. It could help them find the craft a lot easier. Things like having a podcast, that's a good step. It's just knocking out the false ideas that people have with like actual honest facts and helping others see that like this is actually what witches are like.
Welcome to the Crystal Corner with your curator, Sage. Today we're talking about clear quartz. This is perhaps one of the most powerful stones that you could have. It's known as the Master Healer, and it's actually found widespread all over the earth. It's the second most abundant mineral in the earth's crust. For those of you who like to know the composition, it's mostly made of silica. On the Mohs scale, it's hard at a 7. This stone can be used to amplify and balance other stones, provides emotional stability, balance, clarity. You can use a clear quartz in replacement of another stone if you're needing that you don't have. It can take the place. Personally, I like to place clear quartz on my forehead for the crown chakra when meditating. I like the feeling of it there. I would suggest trying that. And if there's no other stone that you have, I would definitely recommend a clear quartz to everybody. That should be a basic one in your arsenal. To cleanse clear quartz, you can use water, moonlight, incense, sage, sound. I like to use either selenite or satin spar as like my favorite go-to for a lot of stones. So that is my preferred method. But figure out what works best for you. Thanks for taking your crystal minute with me, Sage.
It's time for a tarot reading for the collective. Each episode, we're going to ask 3 questions. How can we best show up as our authentic selves? Where can we best direct our energy? And what do we need to create space for? This is all for the next few weeks. So for the first question, how can we best show up as our authentic selves in the coming weeks? We pulled the Sun. And the Sun is all about experiencing true joy. And the best way that we can be authentic is to find the things that light us up and make us happy and do them. We take a lot of time in our lives to, focus on getting stuff done and being productive. That's the buzzword, right? Like time to get stuff done, be productive, always on. But we don't take a lot of time to do the things that just make us happy for no reason. If it's sitting on the porch, drinking a cup of coffee, or staring up at the moon while you're laying in your hammock, that's a personal favorite. Showing up as your authentic self means letting yourself experience that joy. Not what society tells you that should be joyful for you, but the things that actually are joyful, the things that make you happy. So where can we best direct our energy? We got the King of Swords. The King of Swords is somebody who is really in control, understands that, his mind, his intellect is very focused on the goal. He knows what he wants and he knows how to get it. It's a little bit different than the King of Wands, who's all about kind of embodying his passion. But the King of Swords, he is all about this crystal clear, knowing this drive towards the thing that he wants, kind of using logic to direct his path. So for us, the best way that we can direct our energy is maybe taking it off of the emotions that we're feeling and instead kind of focus on logic. Let our brains do the thinking, not so much our hearts. And so we can best direct our energy by using logic to approach the situations that we come in contact with or when we're trying to chase our goals. Instead of focusing on the emotions that we're feeling, we can instead use our intellect and our mind to get us to where we want to be. What do we need to create space for in the coming weeks? Ooh, I drew the Death card. Death is not a scary card. It doesn't mean actual physical death. I know that it kind of gives some people the willies, but that's not what it means at all. Creating space by letting the things that no longer serve us die away and make space for the things that are new, which is funny because it's literally the question, like, what do we need to create space for? And the answer is the things that actually serve us, the things that progress us towards our goals or help us in the path that we're on. We need to allow for those things to come in. And that means that we need to get rid of what is weighing us down, what is holding us back. And it's so important that we actually take the time to assess what isn't working in our lives and realize that if it's just there for the sake of habit or because someone else has put it there in your path or in your life, it isn't for you necessarily, and it is okay to let it go. Find joy, use your intellect and your logic, and let go of the things that aren't serving you.
Thanks for listening to the Cousin Coven podcast, available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Check out future episodes to conjure up conversation and weave witchcraft into your day.
Find us online at thecousincoven.com.
You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at The Cousin Coven Podcast.
Love yourself and love each other.
Blessed be.